Welcome to Web3 Marketing Podcast. I'm Dasha, and this is our first season. We're interviewing founders and leaders from top Web3 marketing agencies from all over the world. Tune in to listen to their insights and real Web3 marketing cases. Today we have with us Nish, Managing Director at Web3 marketing agency called Luna PR, based in Dubai. And we'll be talking a lot about different Web3 marketing cases and especially about PR for Web3 companies. Thank you so much for joining us. And let's start with a small intro about what you're doing, guys, at Luna PR.
Sure. Thanks for having me. And it's really nice to be here as well. My name is Nish, or Dr. Nisheta Sachdev, as some people say, but Nish is easy. I am a marketing professional here at Luna PR. I'm the managing director. What we do is PR and marketing for all things Web3, blockchain, and crypto related. So that includes NFTs, metaverse, GameFi, DeFi, and you name it, we're involved. We help projects take their marketing and PR to another level in terms of their crypto media, their outreach, anything that hits the public, we have involvement in. And to give you some background on Luna, we started off doing production shoots for various companies in the Web3 space, or back then just in crypto, and helping them do these explainer videos and having models go to these events and conferences. So we started off at very humble beginnings and slowly worked our way up in the crypto space. And today, here we are with a PR marketing agency with over 100 team members and offices in 3 different locations, but obviously headquartered here in Dubai. So yeah, that's us.
This episode is brought to you by our friends from Network. They're building tools that help Web3 companies monetize their communities in a secure and automated way with access to full crypto wallets data. To try their no-code builder for referral programs or for marketing contests, go to their website, mvnetwork.app. What is personally your favorite type of project or Web3 vertical to work with? Because you work with everything. So let's try to niche it a little bit.
I think more than the companies that we work with, it's the people that we work with. So I really enjoy working with those companies that you can see that passion in. We get a few companies that do approach us and they're just like, yeah, okay, I just want to just get it out there and just do our PR and marketing. But some founders, we see so much passion and excitement when they talk about crypto and blockchain, and that makes you fall in love with the project. It's more so of just being involved in the space and being involved early and being a part of their journey that makes it so special. For me personally, I am a huge advocate of DeFi. I definitely do love being involved in the DeFi space. I see so much potential and I love the messaging behind giving the power to the people and having control over your own funds and even data, just full ownership. And I guess that does embody the entire industry as a whole. Having power over your own life, I think, is just a beautiful message across the board.
I hope we're going to come back and talk more about some DeFi cases that you can share. What are the biggest names you worked with?
I guess for the bigger projects that we've worked with, we worked with CZ and sent him to Entrepreneur magazine to get him on the cover of Entrepreneur Middle East. So that was, I think, one of our biggest wins. We did also have, we've worked with Kadena Blockchain. We're working with Sinfin or XDC. We've worked with a lot of top 100 and even top 500 projects in the space as well. Whether it's been Clover Finance, WeMix, or WeMade, people know them by both names, or even through profiles of Sandeep Nilwal from Polygon or Sandbox and Sebastian. So we do work with a lot of different profiles and personalities. In terms of smaller projects, we've worked with ideas and taking them into projects, or worked with established projects and turned them into full-blown companies, so to say. So we've seen a lot of different ones that we've worked with. And as I mentioned, we worked with over 600. So we've really seen a huge spectrum.
Right now, do you usually work with founders directly? Who's your decision maker? Who's your client usually?
So we do a bit of everything. When it comes to a brand new project, generally, we don't recommend the founder working with the agency directly just because you have a lot to do and we need communication. So we always tell them to hire someone who can be in between us, who can help us make the marketing decisions, but does not need to dedicate all that time that a founder just can't do. So we try to work as independently as possible. But when it comes to PR, sometimes we need to get quotes approved from, or if we have an article or byline, who's going to proofread it? As a founder, you should be out there making those connections and partnerships and going to these events and building. You shouldn't have to focus on the nitty gritty. We do recommend working with a CMO or someone in the marketing team, but if it's not there, then of course we adjust, we adapt.
Yeah, from my experience working with founders for years, it's really hard for them to organize or do any little details they want them to do. So they need, in a good way, they need a nanny.
They need an assistant for sure.
Yeah, let's talk more about working with PR for Web3 companies. What is usually the general approach that you use when you need to build a PR strategy?
So we take a look at a few different aspects here. What is the target market? And this could be in terms of age, in terms of geography, in terms of demographics of sex or gender, in terms of their preferences. So for example, if you're targeting, let's say, gamers, you're not going to go and advertise on wall. So you have to really look at the trade-off of what's your target audience, what's your secondary target audience, and how do we target these publications and journalists? And then to make things even harder, for every journalist, I believe the statistic is 3 PR agencies or something crazy like that, or PR specialists. So you can imagine they're really outnumbered. And so we really have to make sure that we do our research, because already these journalists, bless their souls, they get bombarded with these emails every single day from so many different agencies. So what we have to do is build our connections with them. And even then, we still have to be careful of what we're pitching. So it requires a lot of research. So let's say you have a gaming company and now you want to target Turkish gamers because, Turkey is a massive market for play to earn right now. Already, and you have such a small region that you're targeting. You have your young, most likely to be male, Turkish speaking demographic that you're targeting. Then you have to look into the journalists and say, who's writing about crypto, who's writing about GameFi, who's writing about gaming, traditional finance, and which ones are actually pro for it. Because even softwares that anyone uses will show you the journalists that are also writing bad about these things. So you really have to do your research. The best opportunities that you get, though, are, for example, with this whole FTX debacle, any centralized exchanges or even DeFi platforms were able to leverage that news and say, this happened because FTX was centralized. This is why you need DeFi. That's the solution that we're offering. So it's, again, a lot of research that goes into it and a lot of spontaneity. And no one saw this FTX thing coming. Maybe BitBoy says that he did, but it's hard to integrate something like this into a marketing strategy. So you have to be adaptable, but at the same time, go according to a base structure, to say the least.
What usually the requests that you get from founders? And at the same time, what are the outcomes you actually explain to them that they can get? Because I'm pretty sure that's not always matching.
Yeah, of course. Everyone wants the gold standard media of Cointelegraph, CoinDesk, Forbes, Entrepreneur, and these are the names that we always hear, but they forget how many media outlets there are out there. And CoinDesk doesn't even open in the UAE. I'm not sure why, but people love it. But the UAE is such a big market, so it's a bit contradictory. So the main strategy for PR should not just be to target these tier 1 publications. It should also be to understand your demographic and target that market. Even though you want to hit Forbes, is it going to attract the gaming community? Probably not. So it's really understanding what you're going for. Now, where we come in is we'll do our best to target both options. So again, using the gaming example, if you're a gaming company and you say, Niche, I want Forbes and Entrepreneur, but my target market is gamers in Dubai, then I'd say, okay, if you want Forbes and Entrepreneur, I'll do a pitch for you. But on the gaming side, here are some top gaming publications that we'll also reach out to. So it's just about setting those examples and educating more than anything. Because I feel like now those publications just come with the name and the hype, and it's almost a trophy.
That really makes sense. What if we were talking to a founder, Web3 founder, who's like, nah, I don't need a PR. I'm not going to do that. What would you say? Like, what is PR for? Because I know a lot of founders in the space, they're skeptical.
And there are a lot of scams in the space as well. You will get people claiming to be PR agents, and then they'll start paying to put up articles, and they'll charge you. We've seen 10 times the price on certain publications. So it's really important to be careful of who you're working with in the space. It's really important to do your research, but PR is so important. Oh my God, I cannot stress it enough. It doesn't just help tell a story, it doesn't just help create awareness, but it helps generate that platform of trust, of credibility. And that is really important in the industry today. But not just that, it's also helping mass adoption of the Web3 space. Because when you hit these traditional publications and you're doing these TV interviews or podcasts, chances are there are some people that aren't in crypto that are curious, that want to get in, and you could be that doorway for them. And the misconception with PR is that users generally feel like it will generate leads for them. That's not the goal of PR. The goal of PR is to educate, to build trust, and to build credibility. That, I guess, on the second hand, will generate leads, but it's not supposed to be directly correlated to PR in that sense.
Do you track any metrics during your PR campaigns?
Of course, yeah. So whatever sites allow us to look at views, we'll note those down, but those are really rare. Usually we look at the monthly traffic and we're able to give a rough estimate of the value that you're getting from the PR. This value though, and I wouldn't depend on it. A lot of agencies will within their reports just to say, oh, we did this for you and you paid us a retainer of 10,000, we got you 1.2 million. So they really like fluff up these numbers. But the metrics that I would rely on are the monthly traffics of the websites and the syndications that the articles get. For those that don't know, syndications are basically when an article is copied and pasted from one website to another, and the authors usually give credit to the other authors. So it works as a win-win, but you'll see this across Cointelegraph and Forbes sometimes, or Yahoo News to Yahoo Finance, or Bloomberg will syndicate a lot, TradingView and CoinMarketCap and such websites. But these syndications add so much value because sometimes you can get hundreds of syndications. And each one will have maybe 2 or 3 views, sometimes 1,000 views. You never know, but they just add so much added value, and they help with SEO as well.
If we were right now helping a Web3 founder that's just starting, can this person do something without the PR agency? What are the first steps? What can you do without money, without paying for agency? Can you do something?
I love this question. Okay, so first step is never pay for a publication. Don't pay, because once you start paying, they'll expect you to pay. So what you want to do is create a strategy, understand your target market. And if you're looking to just build your personal profile, get out there, start messaging your friends, start messaging podcasts, start messaging events, and say, this is who I am, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm building or creating, and here's the solution that I'm offering. And get out there and do that outreach on your own. It is really time consuming, which is why people come to an agency. And also we have these connections already formed, so it's easier for us. But if you are trying to do things alone, definitely dedicate a lot of time, and it's an ongoing long-term process. So in order to build a lot of the event connections that we have today, we have been attending these conferences since 2017. We've been to all of the conferences across Singapore, where we first started off, China, the USA, Korea, Bangkok, you name it. This year we've been there. And these conferences are actually so important that every year we have a list of global conferences that we share, and that list keeps getting shared. So there's always around 20 people on these lists, but they're so helpful in the community. And I feel like any experienced founder will be able to vouch for this and say exactly how much these conferences have helped them.
What's personally your favorite event you've attended so far? Something that you remembered?
I think Consensus was really good. I thought that the quality of the projects that were there and the network that I met as well was really good. Token 2049 in Singapore, I think, was just so much hype and fun, because everyone had been waiting because Singapore was shut down for so long. So those two have to be my favorite personally. It's hard to say because I had a lot of fun at the other ones too. We went to a smaller one, NDX. It was our first time doing conference in Berlin, but the quality of the projects there really surprised me. It was done really well. I guess in terms of overall, it's between Singapore and Austin.
Let's talk about some marketing cases that you did, something that you think is unusual.
Of course. So, on the marketing front, the toughest part of everything, and I feel like this is a pain point for the majority of projects, is building an organic community fast and cheap. So, when I say fast and cheap, I mean without going through expensive ads and banner ads and doing these expensive AMAs and things like that. So, it can come up quite pricey. Also, a lot of companies do hire growth hacking agencies. And while it used to work, maybe last year, growth hacking just doesn't have the same ROI as it did before. So, for those looking for advice through this, it would be to not do your typical growth hacking that would work last year. I would go with the more sophisticated. I say sophisticated. I mean, they're known as degen groups on Telegram, but I would go on these groups, these whale group, call groups, and even AMA groups on Telegram, and do research into their audiences and see how organic they are. Some of these groups can go as high as 10 BNB, 20 BNB just for one session, but the ROI that you get has been really good. Even in these market conditions, we've seen that some of the companies that do host these AMAs have about a 30% token price impact. If not token price impact, then they will have community growth or even 5% price impact. But something or the other is there in terms of ROI. You will get something back if you choose the right ones. We've had a lot of companies reach out to us for different reasons for doing AMAs. Now, the majority of the time it is growth because, like I said, it's just a pain point for the majority of projects that we see. So we don't usually expect token price impact because during the growth phase of your community, you usually don't have a token. So let's say you're a startup. Let's go with the same gaming project analogy here. Just giving free advice for gaming projects today. But if you do come to us and you say, I want to grow my community, I have my ICO coming up in 6 weeks. It's generally really good timing. We recommend 6 to 8 weeks minimum before an ICO so that we can help build communities. So the first step would be to schedule these AMA groups at least twice a week and just get the community growing and get the hype there. The process is that we would again do that research and make sure that the AMA groups that we recommend are giving the right ROI in terms of the direction that the company wants to go in. Now, if you're a gaming project, we'll go for the communities that are heavy in gaming and NFTs and the active community members. Now, once we start with the active community members, let's say we do that for the first 3 weeks, then we'll shift our focus into the more investor, the low cap gem groups, and again, the hype groups, keeping in mind the NFT and gaming community is your base. And those are the ones that are going to stay with you long term. While we do these AMA and call groups, one point that's really important is to do social media. So getting out on social media, going out on Twitter, going out on Instagram, going out on LinkedIn, depending on what your target is. If you are gaming, I would stick solely to Twitter for LinkedIn, if that's your demographic for partnerships. I don't feel like Instagram is as important for Web3 companies at the moment, just because the content that is going out there is not going to hit the right audience. It's more of a spray and pray method of it's going to hit a lot of people and we'll see if anyone comes back. But it's just not ready yet. So we always recommend our clients to stick to Twitter or LinkedIn. But yeah.
What you mean is that if you're attracting people from other communities, your social media got to be active because they're going to follow them, they're going to subscribe, they're going to join, and you got to keep basically interacting with them. So you got to be very active.
Yeah. So with social media comes its own team for us here. So we have our strategists that will come up with the content and say, okay, this is the brand messaging, this is the strategy I want to go down. Here's what the graphics are going to look like and set up the mood board and really come up with the tone of voice. Now, is your game fun or is it sophisticated? Is it NFT degen or is it MMORPG? What is your demographic here? Now, let's say you're a crypto degen kind of gaming company that just wants to have fun and bother everyone on social media. We will come up with content that does just that. And the way that our team works is we will engage with the audience and through your accounts. I don't know if you've seen what Skittles or Slim Jim or Wise Token, for example, these three accounts, what they've done in terms of engagement has been incredible. They're just degenerates on Twitter. And even though they're these massive companies, when it comes to Twitter, forget all of that. They're authentic, they're their brand, and it comes to a different level, a different dimension of the brand image that you can actually have fun with. And we've seen that these are what the Twitter space likes. This is what crypto Twitter is about. It's about having fun and getting to know the brand on a more personal level. That is a really important component. But obviously, this energy cannot be carried over to LinkedIn. When you're talking on LinkedIn, it's seeing yourself as an industry leader. Why should people invest in you? What is the solution that you're offering? What makes you stand out from the game? And what is you why should I trust you? Building that kind of professional profile is really important for LinkedIn. And on Twitter, it's really important to have fun and get the word out there. Meanwhile, on the back end, building your community and sending them to these platforms so that they can get that information is really important as well. So you have all these different tools that are free. And I feel like this was part of the question is, how do you grow a community cheap? You have all the tools in front of you. It's just about using them.
I really like the idea about crypto degen fun talk on Twitter and business talk on LinkedIn. I think it really matters. And I just remembered I have actually a lot of friends from Web2 because I'm also from Web2, just pivoted like a few months ago. And they're like, okay, Web3, it's booming now. I really want to build a new startup in the space. And they're starting to do something and they're like, wow, okay, Twitter, I got to figure that out. And they're very confused and they're like, oh, giveaways, MAAs, this, that. I got to be funny. I got to be provocative. I got to be mysterious. All this, it's really a lot and people are struggling with it. And I think the most common request that I get is, Dasha, can you please help us to find a copywriter or social media person for Twitter? We seriously don't know what to do. It's so hard.
Yeah. And then to make things worse, once you hire that social media manager, you don't know how long they're going to take to understand the project. And you don't know if they really know how to talk on crypto Twitter because a lot of people don't have that crypto background yet. It's such a new industry. So it's all about the training that you are able to provide as well. And a lot of times the clients that we work with use us as an interim. So while they look to hire, they don't want to let their social media fall back. So we come in and we help set up this entire strategy for them, and then they can use it within their own teams. But it is really important. And I know that you did ask a question about doing partnerships and cross promotions and communities and things like that. So Twitter is a really good tool here because of the Twitter spaces that you can do as well. And everything in marketing and PR is so interlinked because these contacts that you make at these conferences, they are probably the ones that are doing those Twitter spaces. They're probably the ones that are going to introduce you to projects and partners, which is why your relationship with them is so important. And the more conferences that you go to, the more you bump into them, the more likely you are to have a good relationship with them, the more likely they are to refer you to projects. The easier it will be for you to build your community organically and for you to get those meaningful partnerships. And it saves you money in the long run. It gives you more ROI. So it's all so interrelated and interlinked on marketing and PR. And this is why PR is so important as well.
I want to add a couple of more little questions about PR. Imagine if I'm a founder who's doing it for the first time by herself. What is the pitch? How do I do it?
So a good pitch is essentially if you can use a pitch for 5 different companies, it's not a good pitch. It needs to be specific to your project. For example, again, for that gaming community, let's say you want to target that Turkish gaming community. What solution is your game offering to the Turkish community? Are you airdropping tokens? Are you giving safe hot wallets, cold wallets? Are you doing NFT drops? Like what makes you really different? Aside from that value add to your players, what do you have that journalists would want to write about? Because if you think about it, with all these pitches that are coming in, what is going to set your project aside? is going to be something really unique. So let's say you've partnered with, I don't know, the world's biggest pizza franchise, and you are integrating their pizzas into your game so that when people, if they win, they can actually go to the store and start claiming pizzas. That is an interesting story for me. And that is a very easy pitch that you can say. And you can say, this pizza joint enters Web3 through this game. Anyone would want to open it and say, why is, I don't know, XYZ pizza opening in the metaverse? What is this value? Then when you start reading the story, you're like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't know that you could tie Web 2 and Web 3 together like this. Let's cover it. And so usually if you can get that one point or that one angle about something interesting in your project, you will get that journalist interest. Right now, for stable coins, for example, it's really easy to pitch about the collapse of UST and other stable coins, especially, again, this FTX situation has brought to light a lot of little inconsistency in the space. And journalists are writing about those topics. So finding out what journalists are writing about it, and this will either go through your personal connections or through an agency, because we're the first to get those requests. Then you go ahead and you send the pitch. And that pitch will be, this is the problem that everyone's having and everyone's worried about this. Here's our solution. Here's what we're doing. Here's what the future fix is for the space.
Do you work sometimes with a project that they don't have this, I don't know, unique thing yet? They're just working on it and you need to help them form a partnership or think about some values that they have or positioning or something?
Yeah, of course. We help with a lot of partnerships as well. And this is under the PR strategy. So we do a lot of outreach to traditional companies and we help them enter Web3 through our clients. For example, we have a client called LandVault. They're the largest metaverse builders. They help all sorts of Web2 companies enter Web3. And we have been able to partner them up with 3 massive, massive names in the Web2 space. Unfortunately, I can't say their names, but they're making some really big moves. And it makes us really happy because we didn't have these Web2 connections. But through our outreach and through our pitching, we're now actually helping the mass adoption of the entire space because of the pitches that we do. So it's been really fulfilling to see that actually take place and come to fruition.
Yeah, it really feels right now like B2B is going to be driving the growth of the entire Web3 space, and Web2 companies getting into the space are going to bring a lot of people. And they're going to basically put a spotlight on the whole space and the things you can do and all the fun and the valuable stuff. I'm also super curious about how you work with metaverses. What are usually the ways for companies to integrate themselves somehow into the Web3 space, especially into metaverse platforms?
Of course, the possibilities are endless. Like I said, whether it's doing cross promotion with a gaming project and giving out pizzas, technically you are in the metaverse at that point. You've entered the gaming space, you've entered Web3. It's no longer, I'm going to go to a store, I'm going to pick up a few things. It's now, I'm going to immerse myself into your brand. And I'm going to go into Nike World and I'm going to see what this is about. I'm going to see if you could be your own world, or even with Adidas, what they did with Bored Ape of putting up their clothing. It was the first time that you could dress your ape, which is insane. You're now taking your real fashion, putting it into this alternate universe of apes and gaming. And it's showing that Adidas is open to these kind of interactions. It's showing a different relationship to the brand. It's no longer just a clothing sport brand. It's now an interactive mechanism where people can actually immerse their alternate lifestyles into Adidas. Right now, even though that's the main use case, of course, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, it's true. I wanted to ask one last thing about investor relationships, because I noticed on your website that you help companies with investor relationships. And I just wanted to ask how it works, and is PR involved? Is it only PR, or you use some other channels and techniques? What's it about?
So we usually recommend having a little bit of PR when doing investor relations, just because, again, it can help build that credibility, and it will help when showing your personal profile. We saw a big shift in the way that investors were looking and doing research on projects. Earlier, it was who's the lead investor, and if they're big, okay, I'll join in. But after Alameda and FTX, again, there's just been so much change from what's happened. We saw that the VCs that we were working with, they wanted to meet the team. Who is the team members? Do they have experience in crypto? Have they done startups before? Have they had a lot of successful startups? Have they failed at all of them? Is this their first rodeo? And they want to know where the team background is from. This has really played a key factor. With the team background does come PR, and that personal PR and that branding. Are you an industry leader? Are you a thought leader? Do you know what you're really talking about here? Or are you just entering crypto for the hype? And that's what's been able to separate the projects that have been able to raise funds and ones that have not. It's just been the shift that we've seen. My advice, though, for companies that are looking that do not have that experience is to bring someone experienced on your team. And this is not just to raise funds, it's also to help you with your project. So to help you and get that guidance of navigating the space, because crypto and Web3 can be tricky. And if you don't know what you're doing, you will get burned so many times so you're better off going with someone that knows and that can teach you rather than getting burned.
Thank you so much, Nish, for your time. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you do, the do's and don'ts and little hints and everything. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you again for having me. It was really nice speaking to you.
Thank you for listening. You can already watch the whole season, but before you do, please make sure to subscribe and follow us on social media. See you in the next episode.